The blue lights of the mining station Kepler-7 flickered against the dark space around it. Zara pressed her crystalline blue fingers against the cold window of the communication center. She watched ships come and go from the docking bay below. Her empathic abilities let her feel the emotions of everyone on the station, like waves of feeling washing over her mind. Most humans felt the same to her: angry, greedy, cold. She had learned to block out their emotions years ago, after what happened on the slave ships. Zara turned back to her workstation. Numbers and data streams filled her screen. She was good at her job, analyzing communication patterns and trade routes. It kept her busy and away from most people. That was how she liked it. The station door hissed open. Commander Lisa Hayes walked in with a tired expression on her face. "Zara, we have a new salvage crew coming in, the New Horizon. Keep an eye on their communications." Zara nodded without looking up. Another human crew meant more emotions to block out. More reasons to stay hidden in her small workspace. An hour later, she felt something different. A new emotional signature entered the station's range. It was complex, layered with sadness and determination. Unlike the simple greed or anger she usually felt from humans, this one had depth. She looked at her screen. The New Horizon had just docked. Its captain was listed as Jake Morrison. Zara frowned. Why did his emotions feel so different? Later that day, Zara went to the supply depot to get replacement parts for her equipment. She kept her head down and moved quickly through the crowded corridors. The station was always busy, filled with miners, traders, and salvage crews. As she turned a corner, she heard shouting. Two human workers had cornered a group of Altarian dock workers near the supply entrance. The Altarians were small, lizard-like beings who did most of the manual labor on the station. "You scaly freaks better work faster," one human was saying. He held an electric prod in his hand. "The boss wants those cargo pods moved by tonight." The Altarians cowered against the wall. Fear radiated from them so strongly that Zara felt sick. She wanted to help, but humans with weapons terrified her. Memories of the slave ships flooded back. Then another human approached. He was tall with brown hair and calm eyes. Zara felt his emotions immediately, that same complex mixture of sadness and determination she had sensed earlier. This had to be Jake Morrison. "Problem here?" Jake asked quietly. The human with the prod turned around. "None of your business, salvage rat. These workers need motivation." Jake stepped closer. His voice stayed calm, but Zara felt his anger rising. "Put the prod away." "Or what?" the human sneered. Jake moved faster than Zara expected. In seconds, the prod was on the ground, and the abusive human was pressed against the wall. Jake had not hurt him, but his message was clear. "These workers are doing their job," Jake said. "Leave them alone." He released the human, who stumbled away with his partner. Jake turned to the Altarians and spoke gently. "You okay?" The lead Altarian nodded quickly. "Thank you, human Jake. We finish work soon." Jake smiled. "Take your time. Do it right. Not fast." Zara watched from her hiding spot, confused. Jake walked away without asking for anything. No payment, no favors. He just helped because it was right. That evening, Zara sat in her small quarters, thinking about what she had seen. Her door chime rang. She opened it to find a food delivery worker holding a tray. "I didn't order anything," she said. "From Jake Morrison," the worker replied. "He said you looked hungry earlier." Zara took the tray, puzzled. She had been in the communication center all day. How could Jake have seen her? And why would he care if she was hungry? She ate the simple meal and wondered about the human captain. Every instinct told her not to trust him. Humans brought pain. They had always brought pain to her people, the Velians. But Jake felt different. His emotions were not like the others. There was kindness there, buried under layers of old hurt. Next morning, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Zara ran to her workstation as emergency lights flashed red. Commander Hayes' voice came over the speakers. All personnel to emergency stations. Long-range sensors have detected an approaching fleet. Corvin raiders. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Zara felt her blood turn cold. The Corvins were worse than human slavers. They captured aliens for their brutal fighting pits and worse. Her hands shook as she tried to focus on her instruments. Zara, I need a full communication sweep, Hayes said, rushing into the room. Check all our long-range arrays. As Zara worked, she found something wrong. The main communication dish was not responding properly. Someone had damaged the control circuits from inside the station. Commander, she said, her voice shaking. The primary array has been sabotaged. We cannot call for help. Hayes' face went pale. How long to fix it? I don't know. The damage is in the outer maintenance sections. It's dangerous to work there during an attack. We need those communications. Online, Hayes said. Without them, we're sitting ducks. Zara looked at the data again. The repairs would take hours and required someone small enough to fit in the cramped spaces between the station's hull. Someone like her. I can do it, she said quietly. Hayes looked surprised. Zara, you're not trained for EVA work. I know the systems better than anyone, and I'm small enough to reach the damaged sections. Hayes thought for a moment. All right, but you don't go alone. I'll assign someone to help you. As they discussed the repair plan, Zara felt Jake Morrison's emotional signature approaching. He appeared in the doorway a moment later. Commander, my crew and I want to help with the defense, he said. We could use every ship, Hayes replied, but right now our priority is fixing the communications array. Jake looked at Zara, then back at Hayes. I know electronics. I can help with the repairs. No, Zara said quickly. I work alone. But Jake's emotions washed over her. Determination, genuine concern for others. The same feeling she had sensed when he helped the Alterian workers. The outer hull sections are dangerous, Hayes said. Having backup could save your life. Zara wanted to refuse, but time was running out. The Corvins would arrive soon. Without communications, everyone on the station would die or worse. She looked at Jake Morrison again. Maybe, just this once, she could trust a human. Fine, she said. But we do this my way. The maintenance tunnel smelled like metal and fear. Zara crawled through the narrow space, her toolkit strapped to her back. Behind her, Jake Morrison followed quietly. His emotions were steady, focused on the task ahead. How much further? Jake asked, his voice echoing in the cramped tunnel. 2 more sections, Zara replied without looking back. She could feel his patience. Something rare in humans she had known. The Corvin fleet was 4 hours away. Commander Hayes had ordered all non-essential personnel to the secure areas deep in the station's core. But Zara and Jake were heading in, the opposite direction, toward the outer hull where the damaged communication equipment waited. They reached the first repair point. Zara squeezed through a gap barely wide enough for her small frame. Jake had to remove his tool belt to follow. Here, Zara said, pointing to a burned control panel. Someone used an overload device. Very professional sabotage. Jake examined the damage with a small light. Whoever did this knew our systems. Had to be someone with access. Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold tunnel. A human? Maybe. Or someone working with humans. Jake began pulling out damaged components. Why would the Corvins need inside help? They usually just attack directly. They want specific targets, Zara said quietly. Velians. My people have empathic abilities. The Corvins use us to control their slave armies. Jake stopped working and looked at her. His emotions shifted to something Zara had rarely felt from humans. Protective anger on her behalf. That won't happen, he said simply. You don't know the Corvins, Zara replied. They take what they want. Not while I'm here. Something in Jake's voice made Zara pause. Through her empathic abilities, she felt the depth of his conviction. But there was something else. Pain. Old grief. Why do you care? She asked. I'm not your responsibility. Jake was quiet for a moment, focusing on rewiring the control panel. I had a younger sister once, Emma. She was captured by alien raiders when she was 16. Zara felt his emotional walls drop slightly. The grief was like a deep wound that never healed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I spent years hunting the ones who took her. Never found them. Never found her." Jake connected 2 wires and a status light. Flickered green. "But I swore I'd never let it happen to someone else if I could stop it." They worked in silence for the next hour, replacing damaged circuits and rerouting power. Zara found herself stealing glances at Jake. His hands were steady and precise. When she struggled with a difficult connection, he helped without being asked. "Next repair point is through here," Zara said, crawling toward another narrow passage. This section was even tighter. They had to move single file through a space barely 18 inches high. Halfway through, Jake got stuck. "My shoulders are too wide," he said, trying not to panic in the enclosed space. Zara turned around carefully. "Remove your jacket. I'll pull you through." "I weigh twice what you do." "I'm stronger than I look." Jake struggled out of his jacket. Zara grabbed his hands and pulled. Her Velian physiology was more compact but surprisingly strong. After several minutes, they both emerged into a larger maintenance area. "Thanks," Jake said, breathing hard. They reached the second repair point just as the station's alarms changed tone. 3 hours until the Corvin arrival. This damage was worse. Someone had used acid to destroy the primary routing board. Zara stared at the melted components in dismay. "Can we bypass it?" Jake asked. "Maybe. But I need to access the backup systems 2 levels down. The passages get even smaller." Jake looked at the tiny access hatch. "I won't fit." "You could go back, help with the defense preparations." "No." Jake's emotions were firm. "We started this together. We finish it together." Zara felt something strange. Trust. She was beginning to trust this human. "There's another way," she said. "More dangerous, but you could fit. We go through the outer hull inspection tunnel." "What's the risk?" "If the hull gets breached during the attack, we die." Jake nodded. "Let's go." They crawled through the outer tunnel for 20 minutes. Space was visible through small observation windows. Zara could see the distant stars and tried not to think about the vacuum just inches away. They reached the backup system access point. Jake held the light while Zara worked on the complex wiring. Her hands moved quickly, rerouting communications through 3 different backup pathways. "Almost done," she said. That's when they heard footsteps in the tunnel behind them. Jake motioned for silence. Someone was moving through the maintenance area they had just left. The footsteps were trying to be quiet, but metal tunnels carried. "Sound well?" A human voice whispered into a communication device. "Target is in Section 7, proceeding to eliminate." Zara felt terror spike through her. Jake's emotions turned cold and dangerous. He pulled out a small energy pistol from his toolkit. "Stay behind me," he whispered. The footsteps got closer. Jake positioned himself between Zara and the tunnel entrance. A man appeared, dressed in station maintenance clothes but carrying military weapons. "Well, well," the saboteur said. "The alien and her human pet. You've been busy." "Let her go," Jake said calmly. "Your problem is with me," the man laughed. "My problem is that you're both fixing what I broke. Can't have you calling for help before my Corvin friends arrive." "You're working with them," Zara said. "They pay better than station wages, especially for Velian locations." The man raised his weapon. Jake moved without warning, tackling the saboteur in the narrow tunnel. Both men struggled for control of the gun. Zara watched in terror as they fought. The weapon discharged twice, energy bolts searing the tunnel walls. She smelled burned metal and fear. Jake was stronger, but the saboteur had training. He broke free and aimed at Zara. "Should have minded your own business, alien." Without thinking, Jake threw himself between them. The energy bolt meant for Zara caught him in the shoulder. He cried out but kept moving, finally getting his hands on the traitor's weapon. The saboteur fell unconscious when Jake struck him with the pistol grip. "Jake!" Zara rushed to his side. His shoulder was burned, the energy bolt having seared through cloth and flesh. "I'm okay," he said through gritted teeth. "Finish the repairs." Zara felt his pain through her empathic abilities. It was worse than he was admitting. But she also felt something else from him. Satisfaction. He had protected her, and that mattered more to him than his own injury. She finished the last connections quickly. Status lights began flickering green throughout the backup system. Done, she said. Communications should be online. They helped each other back through the tunnels. Jake's injury made movement difficult, but he refused to slow down. When they finally reached the main corridor, Commander Hayes was waiting with security guards. The communications array just came online, Hayes said. Good work. She noticed Jake's injury. Medical team to Section 4. As the medics treated Jake's wound, he looked at Zara. You did it. The station can call for help now. Zara nodded, but she was thinking about something else. For the first time in years, she had felt completely safe with another person. Jake had risked his life to protect her, not for money or favors, but because it was right. Thank you, she said quietly. Jake smiled despite his pain. Partners watch out for each other. Partners. The word felt strange to Zara. She had never had a human partner before. Never trusted one enough, but maybe she thought it was time to try. The Corvin fleet appeared on the long-range scanners like a swarm of angry insects. 12 ships led by a massive battle cruiser that dwarfed everything else in the system. War Master Thex commanded that ship, and his reputation for cruelty was known throughout the galaxy. Zara stood in the command center, her shoulder bandaged from helping Jake to the medical bay. Through the main view screen, she could see the enemy ships growing larger as they approached Kepler 7. Defense fleet status? Commander Hayes asked. 3 patrol ships and 8 civilian vessels willing to fight, reported the tactical officer. The cargo haulers aren't armed, but they can ram if needed. Hayes looked grim. Against 12 Corvin ships? We'll last maybe an hour. Help is coming, Zara said. I sent distress calls on all frequencies. The nearest naval base received our transmission. How long? 6 hours minimum. Hayes closed her eyes. We need to buy time. Get all civilians to the secure areas. Prepare for siege conditions. Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. Commander, this is Jake. My crew is ready to help with defense operations. Jake, you're injured. Report to medical. Medical. Cleared me for light duty. My ship has good sensors and decent speed. We can coordinate the civilian vessels. Zara felt a surge of worry. Through her empathic abilities, she could sense Jake's determination, but also his pain. The shoulder wound was worse than he was admitting. Commander, Zara said, I request permission to join Jake's crew as communications specialist. Hayes looked surprised. Zara, you're not trained for combat operations. I know the communication systems better than anyone, and my empathic abilities could help predict enemy movements. Absolutely not. You're too valuable to risk. But Jake's voice came through the speakers again. Commander, we could use all the help we can get. Zara knows these systems. Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Corvin fleet was now only 2 hours away. Fine, but you stay in the communication center aboard Jake's ship. No heroics. 30 minutes later, Zara found herself aboard the New Horizon. The ship was smaller than she expected, but everything was clean and well-maintained. Jake's crew of 4 humans greeted her politely, though she could feel their uncertainty about working with an alien. This is our communication center, Jake said, leading her to a small room filled with equipment. Can you integrate with our systems? Zara examined the setup. Yes, but I'll need to modify some connections. Your equipment is older than the station's. Whatever you need. My crew will help. As Zara worked, she listened to the tactical communications. The Corvin fleet had entered weapons range and was taking formation around the station. War Master Thex broadcast his demands on all frequencies. Humans of Kepler 7, the voice was harsh and mechanical through the translator. We know you harbor Valians and other valuable slaves. Surrender them now and we will kill only half your population. Resist and we will take everyone. Commander Hayes responded immediately. This is Commander Hayes of Kepler 7. We are a neutral facility under Galactic. Treaty, your attack is unprovoked. Treaties are for equals. Thekex laughed. You have 1 hour to comply. Jake appeared in the communication center. Ready for this? Zara nodded, though fear was making her hands shake. I've never been in a space battle before. Stay calm and trust your abilities. You can sense things. We can't. The first Corvin attack began exactly 1 hour later. Energy weapons lit up space around the station as the raiders tested the defenses. The station's protective shields flared with each hit. Jake coordinated the defense from his pilot. Seat. Civilian ships, this is New Horizon. Form up in Delta pattern. Use the asteroid field for cover. The battle was unlike anything Zara had experienced. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel the emotions of everyone involved. The fear of the defenders, the bloodlust of the Corvin attackers, the determination of Jake and his crew. 2 raiders coming around the station's north pole, she reported. The pilots are excited. They think they found a weak spot. Jake relayed the information to the defense coordinator. The patrol ships moved to intercept, driving off the attack. For 2 hours, the defenders held their ground. The station's shields held, and the civilian ships used their knowledge of the local asteroid field to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. But the Corvins were learning. Their second wave was more coordinated. They're targeting the shield generators, Jake said, watching the tactical display. If those go down, we're finished. That's when the worst news came. Commander Hayes' voice crackled over the emergency channel. All ships, be advised. Enemy boarding parties have breached sections 7 through 12. Civilian areas are compromised. Zara felt her heart stop. My people, the other Velians on the station. She reached out with her empathic abilities, searching for familiar emotional signatures. She found them. 3 other Velians who worked in various departments. All were terrified, hiding in the civilian shelters. Jake, they're going to capture my people. Jake's jaw tightened. Not if I can help it. Can you guide us to their location? It's too dangerous. The boarding parties will have heavy weapons. Zara, I promised no one else would be taken if I could stop it. That includes your friends. Through her empathic connection, Zara felt Jake's absolute determination. This wasn't about tactics or strategy for him. It was personal. Section 9, she said quietly. 3 Velians in civilian shelter C. Jake changed course immediately. The New Horizon broke away from the defensive formation and headed toward the station's docking area closest to Section 9. Jake, what are you doing? Hayes demanded over the radio. Rescue operation, Commander, we'll be back. The docking was rough under enemy fire. Jake's crew moved quickly, grabbing weapons and emergency equipment. Zara started to follow them. No, Jake said firmly. You stay with the ship. Keep our communications open. Those are my people in there. And this is what I do. Trust me. Jake and his crew disappeared into the station corridors. Zara sat alone in the communication center, monitoring their progress and trying not to panic. Through the ship's sensors, she watched the space battle continue. The station's shields were failing. 2 of the civilian ships had been destroyed. Time was running out. Then she felt something through her empathic abilities. New emotions entering her range. The rescue team had found the civilian shelter, but they had also found something else. Jake, she called over the radio. There are Corvin soldiers near your position, at least 6 of them. Copy that. How close? Zara concentrated. 50 meters and closing. They know you're there. The next few minutes were the longest of Zara's life. She listened to the sounds of fighting over the radio, felt the fear and determination of everyone involved. Finally, Jake's voice came through. We've got them. 3 Valians and 2 human civilians moving to extraction point. But as they raced back through the corridors, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The shields had failed completely. All ships, Commander Hayes ordered. Begin evacuation procedures. The station is lost. Zara watched through the sensors as escape pods launched from Kepler 7. The Corvin ships moved in for the final assault. Jake and the rescue team reached the New Horizon just as the first explosions rocked the station. The three Valians were badly shaken but unharmed. One of them, an older female named Kira, grabbed Zara's hands. "Thank you," Kira said. "The human risked everything to save us." Zara looked at Jake, who was already preparing the ship for departure. His shoulder was bleeding again, and exhaustion lined his face. But his emotions were calm. Satisfied. He had kept his promise. "All civilian ships, this is New Horizon," Jake broadcast. "Form up for emergency jump. We're getting everyone out of here." As the New Horizon and the other surviving ships prepared to escape, Zara realized something had changed inside her. For the first time in her adult life, she had seen humans fight, not for conquest or profit, but to protect others. Jake Morrison had risked everything to save people he barely knew, simply because it was right. Maybe there was hope after all. The refugee ships floated in empty space, 3 hours away from the destroyed Kepler-7 station. 47 survivors crowded into vessels designed for half that number. The New Horizon had become the unofficial flagship of their small fleet. Zara sat in the communication center monitoring long-range sensors. The Corvin fleet was still searching the asteroid field, hunting for escaped civilians. War Master Thex was not known for leaving witnesses alive. "Any word from the rescue fleet?" Jake asked, entering the room. His injured shoulder was properly bandaged now, but she could feel his pain through her empathic abilities. "Still 4 hours away," Zara replied. "The Corvins will find us before then." Jake studied the sensor display. "We could try to reach the nebula. Hide in the gas clouds. Their sensors are too good, they'll track our engine signatures." Through the ship's internal communications, they could hear the arguments starting among the other survivors. Fear was turning into panic as people realized their situation was hopeless. Commander Hayes appeared on the communication screen from one of the patrol ships. "Jake, we need to talk. All ship captains, emergency conference in 5 minutes." The captains met via video link. Besides Jake and Hayes, there were 3 civilian cargo ship captains and the commander of the remaining patrol ship. Everyone looked exhausted and scared. "Our situation is simple," Hayes said. "The Corvins will find us within the hour. We can't outrun them, and we certainly can't outfight them." Captain Rodriguez of the cargo hauler Maria spoke up. "What about surrender? Maybe they'll let some of us live." "You know better than that," Hayes replied. "Corvins don't take prisoners, they take slaves and trophies." Zara watched Jake's face during the discussion. His emotions were complex, determination mixed with a growing sense of purpose. She had felt this before when he decided to help the Alterian workers. "There might be another option," Jake said quietly. "What do you mean?" Hayes asked. Jake brought up a tactical display. "The Corvin flagship has been hanging back during the search. It's the biggest target and contains most of their command structure. Your point? If we could damage it significantly, the rest of their fleet would break off to protect Thickhex. Give the rescue fleet time to reach us." Hayes stared at him. "Jake, that ship has enough firepower to destroy a moon. How exactly do we damage it?" "The mining charges from Kepler-7. We managed to save 12 of them during the evacuation. Each one has enough explosive power to crack an asteroid." Captain Rodriguez looked confused. "Those charges have a small detonation radius. You'd have to get right next to the Corvin ship to do any damage." Jake nodded. "Exactly." The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Everyone knew what Jake was suggesting. "That's suicide," Hayes said flatly. "Maybe, but it's a chance for everyone else to survive." Zara felt her heart stop. Through her empathic abilities, she could sense Jake's absolute resolve. He wasn't just considering this plan, he had already decided to do it. "There has to be another way," she said. Jake looked at her through the video link. "If there is, I can't see it. 47 people are counting on us. I won't let them down." The meeting continued for another 20 minutes, but Zara barely heard. Jake's plan was the only one that had any chance of success. Load the mining charges onto a small ship, get close to the Corvin flagship, and detonate them manually. The pilot wouldn't survive, but the explosion might damage the enemy ship enough to drive them off. After the meeting ended, Jake came to the communication center. Zara, I need you to help me modify one of the escape pods. We can load it with the charges and... No, Zara interrupted. What? She turned to face him. I know what you're planning. You're going to pilot that pod yourself. Jake was quiet for a moment. Someone has to. Why does it have to be you? Because I'm the best pilot we have. And because... He paused, struggling with the words. Because I couldn't save my sister. But I can save everyone else. Zara felt the depth of his pain and guilt. For years, Jake had blamed himself for not being able to rescue Emma. This suicide mission was his way of making peace with that failure. Your sister wouldn't want you to die for her memory, Zara said gently. Maybe not. But these people need someone to die for their future. Over the next hour, Jake and his crew prepared the escape pod. The mining charges were loaded into the small craft's cargo bay, along with a manual detonation system. It was dangerous work. One mistake would vaporize the New Horizon and everyone aboard. Zara watched the preparations with growing desperation. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel Jake's calm acceptance of his fate. He had made peace with dying, but she hadn't made peace with losing him. Jake, she said when they were alone, let me pilot the pod. He looked at her in surprise. What? My empathic abilities let me sense the Corvin pilot's intentions. I can navigate through their defenses better than anyone. Absolutely not. Why? Because I'm an alien? Because you're my friend, Jake said simply. And friends don't let friends commit suicide. The word friend hit Zara like a physical blow. In all her years of hiding from humans, she had never expected to find friendship with one. Then don't do this, she pleaded. Find another way. There isn't another way. An alarm sounded throughout the ship. The Corvin fleet had found them. 3 raider ships were approaching fast, with the flagship behind them. All ships, prepare for final battle, Commander Hayes broadcast. It's been an honor serving with you all. Jake moved toward the escape pod. Zara, get to the emergency shelter. This is going to get rough. She grabbed his arm. Don't do this, please. Jake gently removed her hand. Take care of the others. Help them trust humans again. He climbed into the escape pod before she could stop him. Through the pod's communication system, she heard him talking to his crew. Launch me when the raiders get within range. Target the flagship's engine section. If I can disable their main drive, they'll have to retreat. Zara ran to the ship's control room. Wait, she called over the intercom. I'm coming with you. Negative, Jake replied. Someone needs to coordinate communications for the fleet. The escape pod's engines fired up. In seconds, it would launch toward the Corvin ships and certain death. Zara made her choice. She triggered the emergency airlock override and dove through the pod's hatch just as it launched. The acceleration slammed her against the back wall as Jake fought to control the suddenly unbalanced craft. Zara, what are you doing? Saving your life, she said, pulling herself into the co-pilot seat. You need my empathic abilities to get through their defenses. I need you to be safe, and I need you to stop trying to die for everyone else. The pod raced toward the Corvin fleet. Energy weapons began firing at them from all directions. Jake piloted with incredible skill, using the asteroid field to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. Zara, when we reach the flagship, take the emergency escape suit and get out, Jake ordered. No. That's an order. You're not my captain. Through her empathic abilities, Zara could feel the Corvin pilot's emotions. Excitement at the hunt, confusion about their target's erratic flight path. Most importantly, she could sense their intentions a split second before they acted. 3 ships coming from the left, she called out. They're going to fire in. Now. Jake rolled the pod just as energy bolts flashed past them. How did you know that? I can feel their pilots' emotions, their intentions. For the next 10 minutes, they flew through hell. Zara called out enemy movements while Jake performed impossible maneuvers to keep them alive. Somehow, they reached the Corvin flagship. There, Zara pointed to a section of the massive ship's hull. The engine control center, I can feel the crew's emotions inside. Jake lined up for the final approach. Zara, please, take the escape suit. She looked at him, this human who had changed everything she believed about his species. We started this together. We finish it together. Jake's emotions were a mixture of terror and love. Love for a friend he couldn't bear to lose. I'm sorry, he said. Before Zara could ask what he meant, Jake triggered the pod's emergency systems. Her seat ejected through the hull, launching her away from the pod in an automatic escape suit. Jake, no! She screamed over the radio. But it was too late. The pod continued toward the Corvin flagship, carrying Jake and 12 mining charges to their destination. Zara watched helplessly as her friend flew toward certain death. Zara floated in space, watching Jake's escape pod race toward the massive Corvin flagship. Her emergency suit's thrusters were too weak to catch up. All she could do was watch her friend fly toward certain death. Jake, please respond, she called, over the radio. His voice came back calm and determined. I'm sorry, Zara. This is the only way to save everyone. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel his emotions across the distance. Peace, resolution, and underneath it all, sadness at leaving her behind. The pod was now only seconds away from the flagship's hull. Corvin defense guns tried to track the small target, but Jake's piloting kept him just ahead of their aim. Wait, Zara said suddenly. An idea was forming in her mind. Jake, don't detonate yet. I have a plan. Zara, there's no time. Trust me, please. She reached out with her empathic abilities, not toward Jake or the Corvins, but toward the other Velians scattered across the refugee fleet. Her people had a rare gift that few other species knew about. When multiple Velians focused together, they could project emotions over great distances. Kira, are you receiving me? Zara broadcast on the Velian emergency frequency. Zara? Where are you? Came the reply from the older Velian woman Jake had rescued. I need your help. All of you. Connect with me empathically, now. She felt the other 3 Velians reach out with their abilities. Their minds linked across space, creating a network of shared consciousness that amplified their individual powers. Jake, listen to me, Zara said. When you reach the flagship, target the shield generators instead of the engines. That won't disable the ship. It will do something better. Trust me. Jake's pod reached the Corvin flagship. Instead of heading for the engine section, he changed course toward the shield generator arrays along the ship's middle section. Now! Zara called. The 4 Velians projected their combined empathic abilities toward the Corvin flagship. Instead of reading emotions, they sent them. Powerful waves of confusion, fear, and panic flooded through the enemy crew. On a ship like the flagship, where hundreds of Corvins worked in close coordination, the sudden empathic assault was devastating. Pilots lost control of their fighters. Gunners fired at empty space. Bridge officers shouted contradictory orders. In the chaos, no one noticed Jake's tiny pod until it was too late. The mining charges detonated against the shield generators in a brilliant flash of light. The explosion wasn't large enough to destroy the massive ship, but it did exactly what Zara had hoped. The flagship's defensive shields collapsed completely. All ships, Commander Hayes' voice crackled over the radio. The flagship's shields are down. Concentrate fire on their bridge section. The remaining refugee ships and the newly arrived rescue fleet opened fire. Without shields, the Corvin flagship was vulnerable. Energy weapons scorched its hull as the crew inside struggled to regain control. But Zara wasn't watching the battle. Her attention was focused on a small object tumbling away from the explosion site. Jake's escape pod, damaged but intact. Jake, respond please, she called. Silence. Jake. Finally, his voice came through, weak but alive. I'm here. Pod's damaged, but life support is holding. Relief flooded through Zara so powerfully that the other Velians felt it across their empathic link. Jake was alive. The battle was turning. War Master Thex, faced with a damaged flagship and coordinated enemy fire, made the decision all Corvin commanders feared to make. He ordered a retreat. This is not over, humans. His voice boomed across all frequencies. We will return for what is ours, but Zara knew better. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel Thex's true emotions. Fear. Humiliation. The raid had been a disaster, and his reputation was ruined. It would be years before the Corvins tried something like this again. 2 hours later, Zara sat in the medical bay of the rescue fleet's flagship. Jake lay on the bed next to her, his injuries treated but still recovering from the explosion's effects. Both of them were alive, and that was what mattered. "That was incredibly stupid," she said. "Which part?" Jake asked with a weak smile. "Ejecting me from the pod. I told you we finished things together. You would have died. We both could have died. Instead, we both lived." She looked at him seriously. "Partners don't abandon each other." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Partners? If you want. I know you humans value formal agreements." Over the next few days, as the survivors were relocated to other stations, Zara and Jake talked about the future. The attack on Kepler-7 had changed both of them. Jake's guilt over his sister's fate was finally beginning to heal, replaced by purpose. Zara's fear of humans had been transformed into hope for what cooperation between species could accomplish. "I've been thinking," Jake said as they watched the rescue ships prepare for departure. "My salvage business is profitable, but it's not very meaningful." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we just proved that humans and aliens can work together to save lives. Maybe we should make that our business." Zara considered this. "A rescue operation, helping people in danger." "Exactly. There are a lot of places in the galaxy where people need help. Pirates, raiders, natural disasters. We could make a difference." "We? If you're interested. I figure we make a good team." 3 months later, the ship Hope's Journey dropped out of hyperspace near the Altani system. Reports had come in about a distress signal from a mining colony under attack by raiders. Captain Jake Morrison studied the tactical display, while his partner Zara monitored communications from her station. Their crew was small but experienced, humans and aliens working together with a common purpose. Picking up the distress signal, Zara reported. 12 families trapped in the main settlement. Raiders are demanding they surrender their food supplies. How many raider ships? 3. Smaller than the Corvin fleet, but the colonists have no defenses. Jake smiled grimly. Then let's even the odds. All stations, prepare for rescue operations. As the Hope's Journey moved toward the endangered colony, Zara reflected on how much had changed. She no longer saw Jake as just another human, but as her closest friend and partner. Their rescue organization had saved hundreds of lives in just 3 months, proving that cooperation between species was not only possible but powerful. "Jake," she said over the intercom, "the colonists are asking who we are. Tell them we're friends, and that help has arrived." Zara smiled as she keyed the radio. For the first time in her life, being associated with humans made her proud. "Unknown colony. This is the rescue ship, Hope's Journey. We received your distress call. Help has arrived." The grateful voices of the colonists filled the communication center. Behind their words, Zara could feel their emotions through her empathic abilities. Relief, hope, joy. These were good feelings to share. As the Hope's Journey moved in to confront the raiders, Zara thought about the Corvin attack that had brought her and Jake together. War Master Thex had been wrong about many things, but especially about one. He had claimed that different species could never truly cooperate. Looking around at her mixed crew of humans and aliens working as one team, Zara knew better. Trust wasn't about species or appearance. It was about character, about choosing to protect others rather than harm them. Jake Morrison had taught her that lesson when he chose to save her instead of abandoning her to the Corvins. Now they taught it to others, one rescue at a time. The raiders at Altanis never had a chance.